The council pleaded for help, and humanity crashed like a flood. The orders stopped coming. Score stood on the bridge of the eternal conquest and watched his fleet die, not in a blaze of glory, not in the kind of battle the Vrendar histories would record with pride. His ships were coming apart one by one, each explosion precise, each hit landing exactly where it hurt most. 200 vessels, the greatest invasion force he had ever assembled, and 4 human ships were tearing through it like they had a map of every weakness he had ever built. His warriors looked at him, waiting. He had nothing to give them. The human ships weren't in formation. That was the wrong detail, the thing that had confused his tactical officers from the first second. 4 ships, scattered across a volume of space his fleet could have filled 100 times over, each one moving like it knew exactly where the others were without being told. His commanders kept waiting for them to consolidate, to form a line, to fight the way every species fought. They didn't consolidate, they hunted. Somewhere past his viewport, a ship that had helped conquer world after world was burning in silence. The Vrendar fleet that had never lost was fracturing in real time. Score's mandibles pressed flat against his jaw. He had one question left. How? You'll want to know how 4 ships broke a fleet of 200. Keep listening. 6 days earlier, Commander Neera Death walked through her terraced gardens while Thales Prime's twin amber suns were still low on the horizon. The soil smelled of turned earth and the faint sweetness of the flowering vines her people had grown here for 37 years. She had planted the first row herself, the season she arrived. She pressed 2 fingers into the dirt now, the way she always did when she needed to think. Her communicator buzzed. Commander, Captain Orvin Shen's voice was flat and controlled. Sensors have confirmed the Vrendar fleet, arrival in 6 days. She already knew. She had been expecting it for weeks, but knowing and hearing it said aloud were different things. She straightened, brushed the soil from her fingers, and walked back toward the Defense Council chamber without looking at the gardens again. The screens showed burned worlds. The Vrendar pattern was the same every time: surround, bombard, enslave. 6 days was all Thales Prime had. 12 million people. No weapons, no army, no military history in 8,000 years of civilization. Shen said what everyone in the room was already thinking. The Altarian Council refused. The Centurion Empire won't respond. No one will help us. Neera looked at the screens for a long moment. Then she crossed to the cabinet where her grandmother's things were kept. She lifted the crystalline beacon, brass-mounted, a quartz resonator glowing faintly at its center, older than anyone in the room could remember. Her grandmother had used it to record the first Shaylin trade accords. Neera had always thought of it as a relic. She held it now and understood it was a tool. Then we ask the ones no one else respects, she said, the humans. She recorded the message herself. The resonator glowed amber gold in the dark room. Her voice stayed steady. Her hands did not. I am Commander Neera Death. My world is Thales Prime. In 6 days, the Vrendar will arrive. We have no weapons. We have no army. If anyone who receives this message can help, we are asking. The beacon launched 40 minutes later, aimed at human space, carrying no expectation of a reply. Admiral Kes Hero was on his 3rd cup of cold coffee when the alert came in at Sentinel Station. He was the kind of man who poured a full mug and then forgot to drink it while he thought. The cup sat lukewarm and untouched on the edge of his console when Lieutenant Dara Vesh turned from the communications panel. Sir, distress call from the Kepler sector, species called Shaylin. They say a Vrendar fleet arrives in 6 days. Hero picked up the mug, didn't drink, put it on screen. Neera's voice filled the command center. The room went quiet, not the quiet of people not listening, but the quiet of people hearing something and not knowing what to do with it. When it ended, Hero set the mug down. Captain Tav, how long to reach that system if we push the engines? Sira Tav was already at the tactical display, fingers tapping a quick rhythm against the console edge, her habit when the numbers were tight. 3 days, if we're willing to stress the hulls. We're willing, he was already standing. Prep the vanguard, swift, hammer and scythe. We launch in 6 hours. Vesh turned from her panel. Sir, shouldn't we contact Earth Command first? Get authorization. Hero looked at her. Someone just asked for help. We don't need permission to do the right thing. The 4 ships left Sentinel Station with no orders filed and no approval pending. Earth Command could send a strongly worded message later. 3 days of hard transit brought the human fleet to Thales Prime with time to spare. Hero came down personally, no ceremony, just a landing craft and a direct walk to where Commander Neera Death was waiting in the square outside the Defense Council building. She was taller than he had pictured. Pale blue-green skin, large calm eyes, hands folded in front of her the way he later learned, meant she had already decided something and was waiting to see if you had figured out the same thing. You came, she said. You asked, he said. That was the entire introduction. They were inside and working within 4 minutes. Von Kaas, Hero's systems officer, spread Neera's old render records across the tactical table and pulled apart their ship architecture piece by piece. Colonel Jace Reeves, who never raised his voice and commanded rooms by making them go quiet, looked at the sensor data once and walked out to begin moving Marines toward the 6 salvaged render scout vessels Neera's people had stored in the lower docks. Nobody told him to. He simply saw what needed doing. Civilians moved to shelters. Children carried what they could. Somewhere in the lower city, Neera heard a small boy ask his mother why the humans walked so fast. His mother had no answer. Kaas came to Hero at 3 in the morning on the 2nd day, holding a data slate and wearing the face of a man who had just realized something that made him uneasy. Their command structure is a chain, he said. 5 main vessels, 20 relay ships. Every order in the fleet runs through that chain. You cut the chain. The fleet goes blind, Hero said. In about 90 seconds. Hero took the slate, studied it, handed it back. Find me every ship in that chain. The scouts came first. 36 hours after the human fleet arrived, sensors picked up 15 render vessels burning hard toward Thales Prime, fast and aggressive, expecting to find a world with nothing to stop them. They found Hero moving toward them instead. No defense formation. No orbit around the planet. The human ships accelerated directly at the scouts, split wide, coming from angles that forced the Vrender to divide their attention across a 3-dimensional space their doctrine had never trained for. HMS Swift, Tav's ship, the fastest of the 4, circled the left edge of the scout formation and began cutting the communication lines between ships. Hammer and Scythe hit the right flank at the same time from different directions. 3 minutes in, 3 Vrender ships lost propulsion. 10 minutes in, 9 had no working weapons. At 18 minutes, the first scout commander broadcast a surrender. Score watched it through relay sensors from far back in the dark. His mandibles clicked once and went still. He ran through every explanation his training could produce and threw them all out. He pulled back and sent one message to the Eternal Conquest: prepare the main fleet. Hero's voice reached Neera in the defense center through a short burst. Scouts are handled. Main fleet arrives in 18 hours. We need to be ready. Neera relayed it to her officers, then stood at the viewport for a moment, watching human recovery crews bring disabled Vrender ships carefully into dock. No destruction beyond what was needed. She noted that without comment. The main fleet came out of hyperspace in perfect formation. 200 vessels arranged in tight squadrons, dropping out of the dark all at once with the kind of precision that came from doing this many times before. Neera looked at the sensor display and felt the full weight of the number she had known for 6 days made suddenly, completely real. Score broadcast immediately, primitive humans, you are outnumbered 50 to 1. Surrender now, and we will allow you to live as slaves. Hero's reply came back flat, no performance in it at all. General, we came because innocent people asked for help. We don't leave people who trust us. You want this world, you come through us first. Score's answer was 5 words, so be it, all squadrons. Neera turned from the sensor display. Petra Vents, beside her had no military training and was gripping the console edge with both hands. "He's not afraid," Neera said quietly. "He's hunting." On the open channel, Hero's voice went out to all 4 ships. "4 directions, maximum speed, don't stop moving." The human ships scattered. Swift went left at a speed that pulled her clear of 3 firing solutions before they could lock. Hammer and Scythe drove right and rear at the same time, each pushing into a different squadron and forcing those squadrons to choose between firing across each other's lines or not firing at all. Vanguard went straight through the center of the formation, driving directly toward the command vessels at the fleet's heart. Cass called targets from the tactical station in a steady voice. The primary command ship, gone. A relay vessel linking the right wing to the flagship, gone. The communications hub for the forward squadrons, dark and silent. The Vrendar fleet started coming apart. Not all at once. The way a wall comes down when you pull the right stones, not a collapse but a cascade, each piece going because the piece that was holding it just went. Squadron commanders lost contact with the flagship. Captains started deciding for themselves. Some kept attacking, some tried to pull back. Some held still and waited for orders that stopped coming, drifting in place while the battle moved around them. No formation, no orders, no plan. Reeves launched from the captured scout vessels with his Marines. The corridors inside the Vrendar ships were dark, the atmosphere slightly sweet and wrong-smelling, the lighting tuned to frequencies Vrendar eyes needed and human thermal imaging ignored completely. 3 ships boarded at the same time. 3 sets of Vrendar guns came online and swung toward the Vrendar formation from inside it. 90 minutes after the split formation order, Hero broadcast on every open frequency in the sector. "This is Admiral Hero. Your command structure is gone. Your fleet is broken. You can keep fighting and die, or you can surrender and live. 60 seconds. The first surrender codes came in at 40 seconds. The rest followed before the minute was up. Hero turned from the display. Tav was watching him from across the bridge. He said, "Make sure nobody else gets hurt." Score was in the detention block of the Vanguard when Hero came in. No guards visible. Nothing in the Admiral's hands except the small brass-mounted device, which he set on the table between them without explaining it. Through the viewport behind Score, human ships moved through the debris field, pulling Vrendar soldiers from broken hulls and bringing them across to medical bays. His people, beaten and alive, because the enemy had chosen to keep them that way. He had spent an hour looking for the tactical logic in that and had come up with nothing. "You have defeated me," Score said. "I am your prisoner. What do you want?" Hero sat down across from him. "Why did you come here?" Score's mandibles shifted slightly. "To conquer, as we always do, resources, territory, the Vrendar way. And the Shaylin, 12 million people who never raised a weapon against anyone." Score said nothing. "You're going home," Hero said. "All of you." He pushed the beacon across the table towards Score. The amber glow of its resonator sat between them, soft and steady. "Carry a message back to your leadership. No more innocent worlds. Stop the expansion or face humanity. We came when called, and we will come again." Score looked at the beacon. He had seen it before in the sensor logs of the original broadcast. He understood what it was now, not a weapon, a record of the moment someone with nothing left had asked for help, and something had answered. Hero stood, paused at the door. "Tell them the Storm people have arrived, not because we wanted war, because we were asked." Score held the beacon for a long time after Hero left. He turned it over in his hands, the brass worn smooth, the quartz still warm from the resonator. He had spent his whole life learning how to take things. He was holding something that had only ever been used to ask. He had no framework for that. The shelters opened at sunrise. Shaylin came out into twin amber light, quiet, blinking, some still holding the small things they had grabbed when the evacuation order came. Neera stood in the main square and watched Dr. Silas Morn teaching a Shaylin girl how to bandage a cut on her own arm. The girl was focused. Morn was patient. Around them, the square filled slowly, people standing in the warmth and not quite believing it was still there. Hero stood, beside Nira. You could have asked for anything, she said. Territory, resources, an alliance on your terms, why ask for nothing? What's the point, Hero said, of saving you from one master just to hand you to another? She had no answer for that. 6 months later, the Vrendar Dominion sent its first formal peace communication to human space. No conditions, no demands. Skor had delivered the message himself, word for word, and the Vrendar leadership had listened. The two powers that had refused to help Thales Prime sent their own messages within the week, both requesting human protection for their own territories. The Human Protection Covenant was 1 page long. Any world in danger could call for help. Humanity would answer. At Sentinel Station, the command center wall showed a new map, patrol routes spreading across a dozen sectors, ships on rotation, more being built. Lieutenant Vesh brought the morning count to Hero without comment. 12 worlds requesting coverage this month, sir. How many ships available? 40 more coming. Hero looked at the map. Then we answer every call, every single one. The crystalline beacon sat on the corner of his desk. The quartz resonator glowed softly in the dim station light, not asking any more. The same signal Nira had aimed at human space 6 months ago, the one that had crossed the dark and found someone willing to pick up, now carrying something different outward in every direction. Not a plea. A promise.